We will move on to the next item of business, which is consideration of Business Motion 15917 in the name of Jamie Hepburn on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau on changes to the business programme. Any member who wishes to speak to the motion should press their request to speak button now, and I call on the Minister to move the motion.
Move, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. No member has asked to speak to the motion. Therefore, the question is that motion 15917 be agreed. Are we all agreed? Yes. The motion is therefore agreed. The next item of business is topical questions, and at question number 1, I call Douglas Lumsden.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the Scottish Information Commissioner's letter to it, expressing disappointment in the way it complied with Decision 193/2024 regarding legal advice that it received.
Minister Jamie Hepburn.
These matters were the subject of a recent statement by the First Minister where he clearly set out the Scottish Government complied with the Commissioner's decision within the required timescale, taking the highly unusual step of releasing legal advice.
Douglas Lumsden.
The Scottish Information Commissioner's letter to this SNP government is absolutely damning. When a Freedom of Information request was submitted to the SNP government about the Ministerial Code investigation into Nicola Sturgeon's conduct, they refused to disclose it, saying they didn't hold this information. The Information Commissioner disagreed with him, as did the courts, but this SNP government wasted taxpayers' money on that legal fight regardless. A subsequent request for information was sent to the SNP government asking for the legal advice it received in relation to this case, and after much delay, the SNP government finally released it. The First Minister told this chamber the legal advice was unambiguous. It supported challenging the Commissioner's decision. However, the Information Commissioner states in his letter that Scottish Ministers' chances of success in the case were substantially diminished. Minister, can you tell us with a straight face that the First Minister was being fully candid when he told this chamber that the legal advice was unambiguous?
Minister?
Yes.
Douglas Lumsden.
We're all too used to the secrecy and spin of this SNP government, but the public are fed up of it, and judging by this letter, so is the Commissioner. He highlights factual discrepancies submitted by SNP ministers in this case and says there was a misrepresentation of the facts about SNP ministers' prospects of success. There is a running theme about the SNP government's handling of the Salmond saga and its fallout, and John Swinney's fingerprints are all over it. They've consistently tried to dodge scrutiny, conceal information from public view and obfuscate when questions about their conduct is asked. So can I ask the Minister, what is it about this scandal that the SNP government are trying to hide?
Minister.
As I've already laid out, these matters were the subject of a recent statement by the First Minister. He's laid out the Scottish Government's perspective. The Commissioner is obviously entitled to his perspective. We have always operated in terms of in line with the FOI law. The First Minister has made his statement and he's laid out the Government's position.
Thank you. Katie Clark.
The First Minister confirmed in his letter to me dated the 6th of November that there remain 5 extant FOI cases relating to the evidence to James Hamilton's investigation. Does the Minister accept that whilst there have been significant improvement in reducing the backlog in FOI cases, it is in these highly political situations where there is ministerial involvement that requested information is being withheld?
Minister.
Well, we will respond to any request from the FOI Commissioner, again in line with FOI law, and at least welcome the fact that Ms Clark acknowledges the Information Commissioner's part of the letter where he recognises the Government's improved performance.
Willie Rennie.
Despite what the Minister says, and despite all that John Swinney, the First Minister, had said earlier on, the Information Commissioner is still angry. And he's making some pretty strong statements about factual inaccuracies and the fact that it's not a true or transparent reflection. Does the Minister understand that trust is at the heart of this? So what lessons has he learnt from this episode and what is he going to change?
Minister.
I make the point already. We've released a significant volume of information. Everything is available for people to look at. The First Minister made his statement. Our position stands as set out by the First Minister in the statement he made on the 29th of October.
Brief supplementary, Fergus Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This case arose from a request for information, which request was made in April 2021, Presiding Officer. That's over 3.5 years ago. Now, the Scottish Government believes profoundly in freedom of information, but surely that delay is tantamount to an abuse of process and a thwarting of the law to which the Government is subject. Will, therefore, the material requested be released forthwith, and will the Minister undertake that no further delay is conscionable?
Minister.
I recognise that Mr Ewing has corresponded with the Scottish Government on some of these matters, and he can look forward to a response on that in due course.
Thank you. Question number 2, Carol Mockin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to improve the recruitment and retention of nurses in light of recent reports that the number of students accepted onto nursing courses remains below its targets.
Cabinet Secretary Neil Gray.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I greatly value the contribution that our nurses make to Scotland's NHS, and the Scottish Government is committed to attracting more people to study nursing. That's why we continue to provide the highest student bursary for nursing degrees in the UK. However, I recognise that there is more to do to make the role attractive to new entrants, as well as to retain our current workforce, and that is why I chair the Nursing and Midwifery Task Force, which will publish its report and recommended actions early in the new year.
Carol Mockin.
Thank you. I thank the Cabinet Secretary for his response. This is, of course, the 3rd year in a row that Scotland has failed to fill places on nursing courses. There are currently 2,380 whole-time equivalent nursing and midwifery vacancies in Scotland, and we know there has been a reduction in the overall nursing posts advertised in Scotland. What is the Government doing to specifically ensure that those studying nurses are guaranteed a job when they do qualify?
Cabinet Secretary.
So some of these issues are issues that have been explored within the Nursing and Midwifery Task Force, for which I'm very grateful to the likes of the Royal College of Nursing, the Royal College of Midwives, the Chair of the Council of Deans for those that are providing training, and a range of others that sit within the Task Force on the recommendations that they are providing and the report that will be published in the new year. Of course, it's up to health boards to determine the levels of employment that meet with their needs for those local areas, and I will obviously continue to encourage them to ensure that they're taking up those nurses that are coming through those training courses, but also to make sure that we are, all of us, expressing the opportunity that there is out there within some of our higher education institutes to take up these nursing training places and to embark upon a career in nursing and midwifery, which is fulfilling and can help to change and save people's lives.
Carol Mockin.
Thank you. The Cabinet Secretary is, of course, correct. The government-led Nursing and Midwifery Task Force should play an important role in the bettering the recruitment and retention of the workforce. However, the proposed budget seems to have little clarity around how the Task Force's recommendations will be fully delivered. Does the Cabinet Secretary agree with me, and can he confirm today that he is committed to fully resourcing the delivery of these important recommendations?
Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, I am, and the increase that we've provided through the proposed budget, that I would encourage all colleagues across the Chamber to support, because it allows us to take steps such as implement some of the recommendations that were within the Task Force report and recommendations. We need support from across the Parliamentary Chamber in order to pass the budget. The budget also provides an increased resource to our health boards. It provides a record level of funding to health and social care and gives us scope to improve the situation that our staff are working in, where they are currently working under pressure, which we know is one of the defining features as to making the role attractive. We want to improve performance for the people of Scotland and those that are seeking to serve our communities in the nursing and midwifery professions.
Sandesh Gulhani.
Declaration of interest as a practising NHS GP. There is a staffing crisis in nursing and midwifery. In Edinburgh, we heard of mothers and babies who were harmed by a shortage of staff. And in FOI, we have discovered Grampian, Highland and Western Isles do not currently have a midwifery workforce plan in place. Cabinet Secretary, is this lack of a plan acceptable?
Cabinet Secretary.
Just to answer the first point of Mr Gulhani's question, overall nursing and midwifery staffing is up by 18.1% under the SNP since September 2006, by 10,288 whole-time equivalents to 67,071 whole-time equivalents. So there has been a substantial investment in the nursing and midwifery workforce under this government. That continues because over the last year there has been a 4% increase in whole-time equivalent nursing and midwives working in NHS Scotland, and an 11.6% increase in the last decade. Of course, we'll work with the boards that Mr Gulhani has referenced in terms of ensuring that they have robust plans in place to ensure that we continue to have services that meet the needs of the communities that they seek to serve.
Dunbar.
I recognise that the Nursing and Midwifery Task Force are working to consider attraction and retention of students in the sector. Can the Cabinet Secretary advise when the recommendations of the task force will be published and what these are expected to advise?
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, President Officer. I thank Jackie Dunbar for her question. The task force has concluded the first phase of its work. We met last week to conclude the report and the recommendations that have been made, and the recommended actions and its report will be published early in the new year. The task force will recommend a number of actions based on the feedback from staff, the listening exercise that we encountered upon, and will include a number of measures to support staff well-being, improve attraction to the role and the alternative delivery routes, such as part-time distance learning and earn-as-you-learn programmes that will increase and widen access to nursing studies. But at this time of year in particular, I want to thank all of those nursing and midwifery staff across and all of those staff working in our health and social care services for the work that they do, particularly at this particular time where we know the sacrifices that they need to take in order to serve all of us during the festivities.
Thank you. Question number 3, Fergus Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its position is on whether the reported delay in the publication of the A96 corridor review document 3 months after it was understood to have been provided to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport is acceptable.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
I received comprehensive advice on the outcomes from the review's appraisal in July 2024 and a hard copy of the review's main transport appraisal report at the end of August. I considered the findings over the following weeks and advised relevant Cabinet Secretaries and the First Minister of my intention to publish the review in draft for consultation. I subsequently met with the First Minister to discuss the contents of the review and discussed it in a full meeting of the Scottish Government's Cabinet in November. I requested a parliamentary statement later the same month, on the 28th of November, in order to advise Parliament of the review's contents and provide an opportunity for members to question and comment on its findings. This timeline represents Government taking an appropriate time to consider a report before presenting it to Parliament. A failure to properly consider a report of this significance would not serve Parliament or the people of the North East of Scotland well. They have a right to expect their Government to be considered and to do things in good order, and that is what I have done, and it is what this Government will always do.
Fergus Ewing.
Well, Presiding Officer, that consideration has extended for no less than 13 years since the pledge was made to dual the A96. And since then, a staggering £89 million has been spent, but not 1 centimetre of tarmac has been laid. So, can I ask the Minister to be candid? Will she bring forward, within a reasonable time period of, say, 3 months, a detailed statement setting out precisely when each remaining stage of the procurement of the section between Inverness and Aldern, including the Nairn bypass, will be completed, and when the road itself will be constructed? Will she bring that statement forward within, say, 3 months? Surely that is reasonable.
Cabinet Secretary.
So with the statutory process for the scheme completed earlier this year, work has commenced to determine the most suitable procurement option, either design or build or mutual investment model for delivering the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn Bypass during the scheme, and only thereafter a timetable for progress can be set out in line with available budgets. It is a complex exercise. It looks at a number of factors, including how the project can be delivered most efficiently by industry whilst minimising disruption to road users. Now, the decision on the use of mutual investment model for the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn Bypass, would need to be considered alongside the A9, which is what our current proposal is. That will come to conclusion at the end of 2025. We will also consider the delivery options for the adjacent A9, A96 Inches to Smithton scheme, part of the Inverness Highland City Region deal, as part of this work. Now, that is the orderly way to deliver a meaningful timetable. A parliamentary statement does not change that, but I give my commitment to Parliament to ensure that they are aware of the progress and the developments on that vital part, the first part of the dueling process, and I will come back to Parliament to advise of a timetable when I can. Unfortunately, Fergus Ewing's own timetable for my timetable, I think, does not allow us to provide that orderly, considered position which Parliament might expect.
Fergus Ewing.
We're nearly in the fourth year of this session of Parliament. Very little progress has been made. That's a fact, Presiding Officer. If the arguments that we've just heard from the Cabinet Secretary were accurate, then there shouldn't have been a statement on the A9 either, because they're in exactly the same position. So I'm afraid, Cabinet Secretary, my constituents will be deeply depressed by the failure for you today. And I know you take this very seriously, which makes it even more serious, to give the people of Nairn and the North East the truth. Can we not have that, please? And if we don't have it, then I, for one, will find it unacceptable, and it is a red line for me. I cannot betray my constituents, Presiding Officer. That's what my party and the government I used to be part of is demanding that I do. I'm not prepared to do it.
Cabinet Secretary.
So the truth is the duelling of the A96 Inverness to Nairn, including Nairn Bypass, has been progressing. In my term as Minister and then Cabinet Secretary for Transport, which is not the full 4 years that he refers to, but in the last 18 months we have seen the completion of the statutory requirements of the made orders. We have seen the provision in budget in order to buy and procure the land, which you'll know as part of that process is part of how we commence the duelling activity itself. And I know he's frustrated. I can feel and understand his frustration. He will also know that the A9 statement and indeed that comprehensive plan for the A9 duelling, when people will see the Tomatin Tomoy route, already seeing the start of the activity to build that part of the A9, was seen as part of an overall package. That package, again, was taken to Cabinet along with the recommendations from the Cabinet Secretary for Finance. So in order to make sure we progress the A96, I am very hopeful and confident that should a mutual investment model be seen as attractive, and that work has already started, it has to complete by the end of this year, then the commitments that he needs in terms of that firm commitment of build, which actually, at the end of the day, is what his constituents will want to see, will be something I will be able to return to Parliament with and to give a full and comprehensive report to.
Brief supplementary, Liam Kerr.
Presiding Officer, it's plainly not acceptable to keep the outcomes of a £6 million taxpayer-funded report secret. So will the Cabinet Secretary apologise to the people of the North East for the delay? How much will the new consultation cost? And will the Cabinet Secretary promise to publish it as soon as the ink is dry, regardless of whether it's good news for the government or not?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, in order to address the member's questions, I would point out that members of his party attacked me for actually publishing the review and the content of the review. He's now saying that I was keeping it secret. How could I have been keeping it secret when I actually published it? I set out the orderly way that collective Cabinet responsibility proceeds. He obviously doesn't understand that, which is probably one of the reasons why the Conservatives have no hope of ever forming a cabinet in Scotland.
And Mark Ruskell.
Thank you. This review showed that the cost of dualling the A96 is £5,000 million. That's the equivalent, presiding officer, of 200 years of the Scottish Government's road safety budget. If one of the key priorities for the A96 review was about safety, can I ask the Cabinet Secretary, how can a package of measures be agreed now to improve safety that can be delivered quickly and that could include measures like average speed cameras, which have been so successful in reducing casualties on the A9?
Cabinet Secretary, in relation to the substantive question.
Well, the substantive question, I think, is in relation to road safety, and I can assure the member that we actually have a record amount of funding in this year's budget for road safety to address safety, yes, on the A96, but across our our trunk road network. And obviously, if he wants to help support the rollout of more road safety measures, including speed cameras and all the different measures that our partners in local authority, Police Scotland, etc., want to see delivered, then that's part and parcel of what the budget sets out, because we need to tackle road safety, not just in the A96, but across our trunk road network.
Thank you. That concludes topical questions. There will be a short pause before we move to the next item of business.